Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Solution to Brewing Podcast. I'm Rob, and I'm here with Brendan and Steve. Mm-hmm. And we're actually recording off my couch right now.
Yep, second of the rare in-person recordings.
Not so rare, as you said, but just like
uncommon.
Not so often. Yeah. Basically, like the rest of the world, the pandemic ended, and we didn't quite fully adapt back to real life.
Yeah, that's right.
But this week's episode, we are going to interrogate Brendan. Because Brendan went to the land down under and drank many beers and saw many things.
And more importantly, they let me back into the country, the fools.
I thought I slipped the border guard $20 to make sure you didn't get back in, but
he went on break.
But yeah, so you went down for a family event, and since you had gone down and you didn't have wife and kid in tow, you I hear that you had a couple drinks here and there.
Yeah, we went on.
And you went to a couple breweries here and there.
A big grand tour. So it was my older brother's 40th birthday. He didn't know that we were coming down, so we surprised him. My two other brothers and my father went down, and so we had a bit of a boys' trip for 2 weeks in Australia, which was fantastic. Missed my wife and my kid the whole time, but there's certain things you can do when you don't have a 2-year-old that you're carrying around and trying to make sure they get their nap and all that sort of stuff. So no, it was a great trip. I mean, we flew down into Brisbane. That's where my brother's staying, so had a good tour around there. Up to Airlie Beach, which is the Whitsunday Islands, Great Barrier Reef, Whitehaven Beach, all that kind of stuff.
The very pretty place.
Very pretty place. And then back to Brisbane for the birthday party, and then down to Sydney, the Blue Mountains, where it got down to 4 degrees, which that country is not supposed to get that cold ever.
That's almost like Canadian fall.
Oh yeah, we panic bought cold weather gear.
What?
It was.
You didn't just go in a hoodie and be like, "Oh, this feels good."
No.
You
just look like jeans and a sweater, bro.
Yeah, you could have shocked all the Australians down
the sweater
there.
I had to buy.
Oh, okay.
That's what I mean by cold weather gear.
Okay.
Because we had shorts and
I thought it sounded like you bought like ski jacket.
Oh,
God.
God.
That's what it sounded like. Okay, me and Rob on the same page here. We thought you were like, "Oh my God."
No, you got to remember how we're dressing for this. Like, we went from 30 degrees in Brisbane to 4 degrees, and we're going hiking in the mountains.
You do that in shorts. What are you talking about?
Your flip-flops, yeah.
No, you do that when you've had a full month of fall at 10 degrees to acclimatize yourself, not when you've just gotten acclimatized to 30 degrees in beaches. Anyway, so that was a fun and exciting day. Then we were in Sydney for a bit, then back to Brisbane for a bit, then back home. So running around all over the place. Sleep is for the weak kind of trip. So, so yes, very, very many beer experiences.
Okay, so like my first question is going to be, like, so Canadian beers and Australian beers, like when you first went to the liquor store or first went to the bar to grab something, what was the first big difference that like jumped out at you?
So price is one thing. Beer is more expensive there, especially in the liquor store.
Even like with I know the Aussie dollar is like a bit weaker than the Canadian dollar.
Yeah, even taking that into consideration.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, so they have higher taxes on specifically beer there because wine was like the same price.
Huh.
It's kind of a weird and annoying thing. They also have dramatic price changes for alcohol percentage. So there's a lot more beer on the shelf in liquor stores in that 3.5% to 4% range, and I didn't see a lot of beers in kind of that 6-7% range in the liquor stores.
Okay.
They would have those at the breweries and at the bars available for on tap, but it's kind of seems like it's not really worth it to buy the 6-pack of it. Not that it's any cheaper in bars. I mean, it's still paying
it's still expensive.
$12, $13 a pint.
Oh my gosh!
Kind of thing. So it's expensive. Basically, it's.
So, but okay, it's 12, 13 in Aussie.
Yeah.
So that's like maybe 10, 11?
10, 11. You're still talking.
That's still,
like,
yeah.
The hockey game prices for your beer here.
But at a brewery.
But at a brewery or a bar.
Oh, my goodness.
So that was kind of the first big thing to jump out. And then the second is that in the bars, they typically sell 3 sizes everywhere. There's a pint, which we're all familiar with and love.
Mm-hmm.
There's a occasionally called a schooner.
So a 32 ouncer?
No. They go the other direction with it.
So a
So
schooner
a
is
schooner is
smaller.
basically a half pint.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's actually 10 ounces.
Okay.
And then you can also get a pot,
Okay.
which I believe was 6 ounces.
So they go taster, half pint, pint.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Except the pot's a little, like your taster's 4 ounces, so the pot's a little bit bigger. It might even be 8 ounces. 8 ounces is a cup, I think, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
250 mils? Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so the pot would be like a cup of beer.
So a cup of beer,
And
a half pint of beer.
So I think it's 8, 12, 16 are the sizes.
Okay, that's
Or
weird.
8, 12, 20. Yeah, it was a little bizarre. And you kind of get used to it. And then the whole idea of a schooner being the smaller beer threw me for a bit because there was sometimes...
The first time you ask for a schooner, you're like, that's not a schooner.
Well, where it really throws you off is when they have schooner specials. And so I was like, wait a minute, here's a pint for $13 or a schooner for $6? How does that work? And then you order it, you're like, it's tiny. It's still cheaper.
It's still the special at that point in time, but okay, that's weird. That's weird. Because again, we're Canadians. We grew up on schooners being big,
The bigger ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
the double mugs or whatever. You have to use a bit of your wrist to hold it to make sure you don't, it doesn't fall over or anything like that. No wonder they have it backwards. They're down under. Everything's
schooner-
flipped.
a schooner's
Everything
not-
is literally flipped, even the terminology.
Schooner's not exactly a large ship, is it? Like,
It's a it's a small fast ship.
yeah.
Yeah.
So us using
the Blue Nose.
us using it as a big. I think we just do it to honor the Blue Nose.
Probably. Canada actually won a whole bunch of racing championships, like in the 18 and 1900s, due to the Blue Nose and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
put us on the map.
speed records.
But so,
That's odd.
Yeah.
That's very odd.
but despite the high prices of beer, very thriving microbrewery community, particularly where my brother lives, his little area of Tenerife there. I think I counted within a 10 or 15 minute walk, there was 7 breweries that you could get to.
Oh, nice. So they had their own barley belt or whatever sort of thing.
I believe
Maybe they
it's
call
just
it the koala belt.
Koala belt.
I think there's just everywhere in Brisbane, but just I don't have the data to back that up.
Was there a dingo bar?
I didn't go to a dingo bar. I don't know
Kind of
if there
hoping
was a
there'd be
dingo
one
bar.
called a dingo bar.
But the 2 main ones that we went to. So the first day that I was there, we went to Working Title Brewery, and it had previously been under different ownership with a different name, and then I think they just never came up with a name.
So they just came up with Working Title.
So fair enough.
This was probably written on the paperwork, and they're like, we'll fill it out later, and then someone just submitted it.
Something like, or we'll fix that later. Let's start making some money. So we went there after the Thanksgiving lunch, and after the whole surprise and hey, we're here and all this sort of stuff. Okay, now take me to a bar. Show me where the bars are, sort of thing. They had live music playing, and it just whoever this duo was hitting basically the 2000 to 2015 alt rock hits. And so it was just a great experience for being fairly tired, full of turkey. And starting to get a little tipsy, and the beer was good. I had a flight. I can't remember exactly what was on there. Ended up drinking an IPA. Lots of IPAs, lots of juicy beers there.
Well, they're right beside New Zealand, which produces some of those exact hops and all that. So, yep.
The challenge was finding good dark beers while we were there.
Interesting.
And which was interesting because my dad and my younger brother Jonathan both really enjoy dark beers.
So yeah, Dunkels, stouts, porters, Schwartz beers, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So a lot of places they would have a stout, but it would be some weird flavored stout. So this first place, Working Title, had like a vanilla chocolate candy something. Jonathan ended up getting a pint of it, he got it as part of a flight, so he got a taster of it, and It smelled fantastic. It smelled like Christmas candy.
Oh.
But then it tasted like drinking Christmas candy. So it wasn't.
It was okay, but maybe not a pint of it.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was like, a taster is probably enough, and I'll have a sip of that taster. It wasn't the beer for me. The other brewery that we went to a couple times was kind of Garrett's local haunt. They're called Green Beacon Brewing.
Okay.
And they're literally a block away from Garrett's place.
Crawling distance.
And a block and a half away from Working Title. I had to laugh because at one point they had some other guests coming in for his birthday party, so we got an Airbnb in the area, and it happened to be a block and a bit away from Garrett's place and exactly between Green Beacon and Working Title. So I was like, "Wow,
So you're equidistant from everything."
I was like, if I don't know what I'm doing tonight, I'll go to one of those. Like, but they're all tucked into it's all residential high-rise stuff there. So it's very interesting. They're, all right, come in here, have a party, and then they'll have signs outside. It's basically like, don't be a drunk asshole on the street.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody around here is sleeping.
Yeah.
So
no yelling to the world.
Don't be loud and obnoxious.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. If you're loud and obnoxious, don't come in. Dogs were welcome everywhere around there. Everybody has a dog. Everybody runs their dog at 6 a.m. when the sun comes up. And generally seems to wear their underwear. Men and women both. They're just running around in underwear with their dogs.
All right.
That's Brisbane.
Okay. All right. So when you were at these various breweries, because again, you visited multiple ones, did you ever talk to any of the brewers there?
Not at the breweries we visited, but one of Garrett's friends his partner is the main brewer for Range Brewing.
Oh, okay.
And so I met her at the Thanksgiving party and talked with her for quite a while. Unfortunately, didn't end up getting to her brewery. It was a busy
just out
trip.
of the way.
One of those things they'll have to do next time. Their special. This is also part of the reason I didn't get there. Their specialty is the adding all the weird adjuncts and getting all the weird sours and stuff like that going.
Oh,
so it's a
so
place
she's
that
an
you
experimenter.
guys would love.
Yes.
So Steve and I should go there.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't know if it's my thing. But I did have some of their beer at the Thanksgiving party. It was a very crushable, golden ale.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And I ended up talking to them because they were driving or something like that, so they were drinking their non-alcoholic.
Oh, okay.
And so I ended up talking to her a bit about how they're brewing their non-alc beer and what challenges or successes they've had with it. Turns out they're using Escarpment Labs. Non-alcoholic yeast. And so I was like, oh, well, that's very interesting. Okay, well, how did you get around this? How did you get around that? And all that sort of stuff. So they do have a pasteurization setup, and that's how they kind of get around any of the concerns with stability of the beer after it's produced. But obviously, they're a bit of a bigger shop than us. They actually have a storefront and stuff like that. But
literally, anyone's a bigger shop than us.
This is true. Very, very nice person. But again, didn't get a chance to dig into that operation too much, unfortunately. And then, any of the other breweries I was there with my brothers. We were more focused on
being brothers.
Okay. Rehydrating after whatever event that we're going to, and then planning our next event, which occasionally proved to be a challenge, given the nature of my brothers to be accommodating to everybody.
Well, it's a good thing you had those low alc beers, so you could actually rehydrate them.
There was quite a few times. So the beers in the stores were typically low alc. The beers in the breweries were typically not.
So they were
their standard 5 to 7%.
Oh, okay.
And that's the kind of an interesting mix. So the culture of the area, or just based on the beer that's available, is if you're drinking at home, here's something that you can basically drink all day and not really get too hammered on. Mm-hmm. If you're coming to the bar, good on you. Let's get drunk. And especially in that small area of Tenerife, you're walking everywhere, so there's not a huge drinking and driving risk.
Right.
I never asked about the drinking and driving penalties, but like speeding penalties are very, very high. Distracted driving penalties are prohibitively high. So I have to imagine that drunk driving is
probably really high. Yeah.
Yeah, you get the axe right away. And the end result of this is that people don't speed. People don't use their phone when they're driving because the cost of it is just too high, right?
So they're a very law-abiding people then.
Yeah. And I think if you get caught with any of these, you get like the boot from The Simpsons or something like that. In addition to a prohibitively costly fine.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, so next question. What was the best beer you had?
The best beer.
Yeah, because you went to all these different places, you drank all these different kind of beers and all that kind of stuff.
So,
what was the best beer?
My favorite beer was probably the Green Beacon Brewery had a red IPA special that they had made for October.
Oh, okay.
And I enjoyed that one the most just because it was a dark beer that was still hoppy, and it was the only one of that style that I found in the entire country while we were looking.
Oh.
And it was made well. And I have a red IPA recipe. I just like the concept of that beer.
Yeah, delicious and unique.
Exactly. Hoppy, malty, and dark. Beer can be everything.
This is my everything beer.
My favorite can was from a beer called Pirate Life. And a very simple can that you look at the outside blue, whatever, it was an XPA or something like that.
That kind of name, it sounds like it should be like a rum distillery or something.
Yeah.
They might have one of those as well. I don't. But it was a decent little pale ale. We had those up in Airlie Beach. And on the top of the can, they had pictograms for every step in the mash process or in the brew process.
Yeah.
And they were just, I should have grabbed a picture of them. I missed that, but they were just cute little pictograms. So I like it.
like on here, like on the rim of the can,
right on the outside rim. So it's printed cans,
okay.
Right? And there's like, oh, here's the gearworks for the grind, and then there's somebody just shivering for cool down after the boil. And there was one point where it was just wait, and the guy's sitting there, which we all know. Like every time you're brewing, there's a lot of waiting.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought it was cute. They captured that on the can. And there's the big beer in Brisbane, or the Budweiser equivalent, is 4X beer.
4X?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Foster's?
No,
Foster's
Foster's doesn't exist.
No, 4X, because
Or,
Foster's is piss.
No, Foster's is like not an Australian beer at all.
Exactly. It's
to the point where Australian breweries have actually sued the owners of Foster's.
Oh, because for claiming it's Australian.
You can't say this. This is not an Australian beer.
Yeah.
So, but every state kind of has their own big beer. So Brisbane, which is in Queensland, their big beer is 4X, and the big 4X brewery is in Brisbane. Didn't get a chance to tour it. That's a next visit kind of thing. But it has the big old 1970s neon sign with big 4Xs on it, and they light up at night. And every time we drove by it, I was just saying, I was like, one of these days, one of those X's is just gonna flicker out, and everybody's gonna think it's a strip club.
Yeah, the first X or the last X.
Skin flick theater. It's like this is just asking for trouble. I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't heard of this one. I'm assuming that 4X is a big lager kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
3.5%.
Every big beer is always a lager. Yeah.
3.5%.
3.5%.
Well, that's what people crave, Rob. People crave the lager. That's why it's literally like 85% of sales of all beer.
And you know what? When it's 30 degrees outside, I don't mind that kind of light beer.
And if they're 3.5%, you can keep drinking them too.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. They're buying into that market or that concept of, I want you to drink a lot of my beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sit on the beach and drink me all day.
Exactly. So it's a half decent beer. It's cheap. But the other weird thing with Australia is different can sizes. So they have tall boys.
Okay, 473.
Or are they 500?
They're 500
because they use the real metric system.
So the proper proper British pint
And they also have 6-packs.
of
the
the
like, smaller
500s?
cans or of the big cans?
Smaller cans.
What's the smaller cans 355s or?
They're 355s instead of 335s.
Huh.
So they're just a little bit bigger.
355s.
But they also have some beers that sell in the 335s.
Weird.
So when you're walking through the liquor store and you're trying to compare beer prices, we're like, okay, how much is it? It's difficult because they're all different pack size, different pack
different
amounts,
volumes,
and different can sizes.
Oh my
It
goodness.
just really throws you for a loop. So I remember I got 2. And I was like, okay, well, this one's more expensive than this one. And then they're different can sizes. I don't know what to do with this.
Actually, that's starting to happen.
And not
here.
only are they different can sizes, they're different alcohol percentages. So I'm at a loss for how to evaluate. I'll just drink them both.
So you were doing a lot of math and then just gave up
No,
on math.
I would fairly quickly get. I was in vacation mode too,
Yeah.
so I was like, whatever. I don't actually need to care how much this particular can costs. I just want some beer.
Actually, I've seen that now. One of the terrible things that's happened at our current liquor stores is that they're starting to sell 355s in 4-packs instead of 6-packs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And they're charging the same amount, I'm sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, who's packaging these in 4-packs?
A lot of Village beers, actually.
Oh, Village.
Yeah. Because I literally saw their tall boys for sale right next to like the same beer right next to their 355 cans.
I hope that's not the next trend.
I just hope to God not. But I saw that today.
It's the waste of packaging material. Like,
Yeah, it is. For the pack tax? Oh, yeah, completely.
Well, and cans. You need
And
way more
cans
cans.
and all that. Yeah. But, all right, Rob, you got a question for Brennan?
I do not. You actually caught them. I was just going to ask what his favorite one was, and you already said.
Okay. All right, here. So, yeah, so like.
Unless you want to talk about, did you try one you didn't like?
well, I already talked about the chocolate vanilla
Right. Okay.
Christmas.
So,
Just
so,
one.
so that first one was literally the worst beer you had on the trip?
Well, it wasn't the first beer I had.
Well, like, no.
But it
like-
was at the first brewery. I tended to avoid the darker beers largely because of that experience.
You didn't trust them at that point. You're like, no, I've been bitten once.
Pretty much once bit, twice shy kind of thing. Dad and Jonathan kept trying to find additional dark beers, and it was actually on one of our last days. We had gone up to Sunny Coast or Noosa Head area, and then stopped for lunch on the way back at a bar, and they're like, "Oh, just get me something dark." So here's the other thing with Australia: 90% of the places and almost all the bars are bar service, not table service. So you got to go up to the bar and order.
It's kind of normal for a lot of breweries here, though, too. But
Well,
for
actually-
breweries.
for
Well,
breweries, yeah.
But this is like
This
but
is
like
a restaurant.
all
any
places,
bars, restaurants, unless it's like $40 plane and over, you're probably not getting table service.
Oh, really?
Really? So you, huh?
So
Is that just because of the server wages or like living wages or something? Do you tip there?
that's part of it. You do not tip.
So that's why then.
That's a big
Okay,
part of it. Yeah. So what this leads to though is that if you're going up to get beers, you'll buy for the table, and then people just trade rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to this one bar, and it's dead. It's Friday, but it's like just at the end of work, so nobody's gotten out yet. And I was like, okay, what does everybody want? And walk up, and John and Dad are like, okay, I just want a dark beer. So I walk up, I ordered the cheapest beer for Garen and I, which is quite good actually. And then I ask, okay, do you have any dark beers? No, we sold out of the dark beer cake. Okay, let me think. Oh, Jonathan likes fruity stuff. Do you have any fruity beers? Oh, yeah, we got this one, which is sold out. But we have this one. I was like, there's a sign on this one on this side that says sold out. Oh shit. Okay, yeah, we're sold out of that one too. What beers do you have?
Sorry, Jonathan, you get flavored water.
Pretty much. I ended up getting like a hazy IPA or something for him because I was like, it's juicy, he'll be fine. and it was okay, but I was just like, you guys have 12 taps and you're sold out of 6 of them. And it's not even Friday night yet.
Yeah, like, come on, guys.
Get your ducks in a row. Not going to be a good night for you guys.
Yeah, whoever the brewer is, they fucked up about 3
Well,
to 4
no,
weeks ago.
this was a bar. This
this
was
is
a
a bar.
brewery. This is just a bar.
Oh, this
and
is
it's
just a
like,
bar?
You guys should have had this shit on Wednesday.
Yeah. Who's running to the
Maybe they get their orders on Friday. Who knows?
yeah, who
Well,
knows?
maybe, but it was late. Like
Whoever
this was pushing 4:30.
Yeah.
Whoever the Australian equivalent of the AGLC is, it's like either phone the breweries or phone them and get me like, I need beer now.
Yeah. You guys got to get on this.
Okay, so my next question then is, what was your best experience while in Australia? Like a hike or going out for the day, or I don't know. Like what was your best part of the trip?
Before we get into that, we're going to talk about. I just sent you guys a couple pictures, which we should post to the.
I just realized I forgot to put out a newsletter for today.
Well, you can include these pictures in the newsletter.
I can include these next new pictures. Yeah.
All I see stuff is about D&D, so that's not relevant.
That's obviously the wrong conversation.
That's a wrong conversation.
So
I see a gigantic cruise ship.
One of the cool things is that I took a couple pictures. These are the coolest locations for breweries that I found.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of cool. The whole brewery's just like hanging out there.
Yeah. So the first picture I sent you has kind of the cedar lined tanks sitting up
Do you
top.
remember the name of these breweries?
So this one is.
You'll have to send me the names.
I'll send you the names of the brewery. Four Lashes was the beer they had, and then they actually had a much better IPA at this restaurant. We went there after going to a show, and we had a really nice fancy dinner there. And then their brewery just hangs out above their restaurant. They're right in the arts district of Brisbane. And I love the fact that they wood paneled. They're clearly stainless steel tanks.
Yeah, clearly stainless steel, and we're just gonna put this on the outside to make you think it's actually proper wooden barrels.
But it looks pretty, and so Garrett had bought some bottles of their lager, which was a 4.5% lager. Be careful with that one, guys.
Oh boy.
And
like the 5.5% I've been drinking the entire recording session.
And it was okay, but I actually preferred the 4Xs to it. But then we went to this place, and I was like, oh, they actually have like an IPA, and it just turned out to be one of the better ones I had on the trip. And so I was like, oh, why didn't we buy this one the whole time? Whatever, I'll take a picture there, and the brewery's cool and all that sort of stuff, and had a lovely dinner there. The second picture.
Yes, the second picture. So there's a cruise ship, and then there's basically like a floating platform.
So this is on the wharves. This is on the quay. This is at Circular Quay in Sydney.
Mm-hmm. And
so this is the international departure terminal for their big cruise ships, and that is one of the bigger cruise ships in the world parked there. And everybody was gearing up. This was actually an interesting day because everybody was getting to depart. So they had like baggage couriers running all over the place, and people were lined up all the way half a mile down the block, and we were just trying to walk around. Right behind the cruise ship in this picture is the Sydney Opera House on the other side of the quay.
Oh, really?
And you can't see it, but there's a reason why it's right there. You're right in the middle of Sydney. You're right in the middle of Sydney Harbor, and it's kind of cool. Huh. But as we were walking by, I was like, wait, there's this little off building to the side of this like massive ship loading terminal. I was like, that's a brewery.
That's a fucking brewery.
Does this cruise liner have its own brewery? And I think the answer is yes.
It actually looks like it, because it looks like it's high enough that they could literally just load onto the ship.
They could pump it onto the ship.
Yeah, they can pump it onto the ship. Yeah, like by keg or by literally just connect the hose line and fucking let her rip sort of thing. They could put beer on that ship very easily.
And if you're thinking about like, hey, we're gonna load beer for whatever 50 million people for a week.
Yeah.
Why deal with bottles and all that sort of stuff? Obviously, they'll bring in the favorites, the Coronas, the Heinekens, all that junk. But you know what? If somebody wants something on tap, why don't you just make it yourself? Save yourself some money. So I thought that was
Makes
really
some sense.
And I don't know any of the details of it, but I just was a tourist walking by and had to take the picture.
That's a very neat picture.
Anyway, best experience in Australia. There's a few. I got to feed a kangaroo. That was awesome.
And it didn't try to fight you?
It did not try to fight me, but one of them was laying down, one of the big ones, and just basically sitting there flexing, and I got scared and walked away.
Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, look at like ripped kangaroos because, like, Jesus, they have muscles.
They're just toned, yeah. And they're toned in their upper arms, and you're kind of like, well, what do you use those for? You hop everywhere.
It's for smacking you upside the face.
That's pretty much. And I didn't know this about kangaroos until they started approaching me. So this was at an animal sanctuary in Brisbane. You could feed the kangaroos, hold the koalas, and do all that other sort of stuff, and all the money goes towards preservation of the species and all that junk. But you get in there, and their kangaroos are fairly docile. I mean, they get fed by tourists every day, so they're pretty much tame at this point. But you walk in, and they know you. Hey, it's a human. He probably has food for me, and they start slowly approaching you. And when they walk slowly, like they go forearms and then hop with their legs and stuff like that. And the first step he took towards me, he spread his hands on his forearms, and his claws are about 1.5 inches.
Yeah, they got big claws, yeah.
And I was just like, oh, all right, I don't have any food for you. Don't mug me. Like,
but if he decided to mug, yeah.
but I was just like, that's a little sketchy.
What
But
do you feed them?
they had a special, like, kangaroo food that they put together, so it's
Like
just
pellets or
little
something like
pellets
that?
and stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay.
That's supposed to be balanced for their diet. And then they had a lot of signs everywhere outside of the kangaroo enclosure that was like, do not feed the kangaroo food to the sheep or the koalas.
Oh, yeah.
It's not good for anybody but the kangaroos. And the
One
wallabies.
animal food only, yeah.
Well, and the wallabies. The wallabies
Oh,
are
the
another
wallabies,
species.
okay.
So I did feed a wallaby as well, which I was pretty proud of because they were quite a bit shyer than the kangaroos were.
But they're smaller
So
and cuter.
They're smaller and I don't know about cuter, but they're definitely more shy. So that was really cool. We got to fly over the Great Barrier Reef, so that was for me that was fun, and I got to sit co-pilot and talk to the pilot the whole time that we were doing the flight. So
you're just
that was
"Eee."
I was giddy about that one. The Blue Mountains were spectacular, even though it was a little bit cold.
Compared to Rocky Mountains, what do you think?
Night and day.
Night and day?
Yeah. So the Rocky Mountains, here's the cartoon level difference.
Mm-hmm.
In Canada, we build all of our towns at the bottom of the mountain,
Yes.
and then you hike up the mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and you're rewarded with the effort of going up the mountain with a glorious view of the valley and everything else around you.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
In Australia, they've built this backwards. So all the towns are at the top.
And then you go down into the valley.
So you start with this absolutely gorgeous view of everything. And then you go down 1,000,000 stairs.
Why?
And then you're in the jungle. And then you walk through the jungle for quite a while, and it's beautiful, and there's rocks and cool shit everywhere.
Okay, but then you have
And
to
then-
climb back out.
And then you have to climb back out. But instead of being rewarded on your climb back out with, here's a view, because it's the same view you started with, you're rewarded with waterfalls the entire way. So
okay, that's
you're
kinda
just
cool.
like, oh, that's another really beautiful and stunning waterfall. Oh, look, another gorgeous waterfall. And then by the time you get to the top of your 5,000,000 stairs, you're like, oh, I'm a bit done with waterfalls for the day. I'm tired.
Yeah, exactly. Like it should be effort at the beginning and reward at the end. Like the
No,
Australian.
That's your northern hemisphere thinking.
Exactly.
bias,
The Australians are backwards and backwards.
So the truth of it is, it's really more of a mesa, and then so they kind of built a lot of stuff on the big plateau, and then the mountains. There's the big cliff drop, and then the mountains are kind of around the cliff edge. It's an old glacier valley, but it just developed differently than the Rockies. There was none of the seismic thrusts that happened to push everything up.
So, like, would you say our mountains are like basically like newer, like they're pointier and all that kind of stuff?
They're pointier, but I don't know about newer. Because
Because
ours
it's erosion after that. Because like once you're pointy, like it's what erodes you afterwards, making it into softer hills and all that kind of
right.
stuff.
But it'd be like if you imagine the Rockies without the plate thrusts.
Okay, so
So
it's
like
not like
nothing to push up, because
shards.
you can tell. So if you look at the stratigraphy of the Rockies, everything's on a sharp angle, right? You can see the different layers at an angle. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Australia, they're all level. They've never been thrust up.
Weird.
So it's like if you eroded, if you had glacial erosion without the thrust, and that's what the mountains are.
So mountains without the plate tectonics, essentially,
Yeah.
just to, like push.
Sounds like
everything.
really big hills.
But they're
Yeah,
not, because they're sheer 200-meter cliffs. It's cool.
That is different.
It is well worth the trip. It
That
is
is
different,
different.
but it is very cool. And because it's like jungle, it just adds another layer to it. So you sit there and some bird makes a loud noise, probably a cockatoo, and then you see a flock of cockatoos just take off from a tree below you, and you're like 200, 300 feet above these birds, and it's just stunning. So that was beautiful. Sydney's a really cool city too. Got to go to the Naval Museum there. All these places I'd like to spend more time at in the future.
All right, so this is basically like the tourist tour,
Oh,
and
yes,
now you want to
yes,
go back
yes.
as a serious, like, I'm here for a mission. I want to go down and fly things.
Wow, and there's a
I
lot.
want to go down and
Yeah, so that was something that because I had looked at renting a plane when I was down there, and there's a number of different steps that you have to go through. A lot of them make sense, but I didn't have time to do a lot of them, and they're all around. If you're going to rent a plane from somebody, they want you to prove that you know how to fly.
So like a check flight.
A reasonable check.
Yep.
Yeah.
So a check flight, and then they lend you the plane, and there's other verification of your license and stuff like that. What I had wanted to do was just do the check flight with passengers, and basically like, hey, I want to do one flight with an instructor, so I'm not actually piloting command. And nobody was willing to do that. They're like, nah, you can either do a check flight with us and rent the plane, or you can fly with us alone, but no passengers. And I was like, you're not understanding what I want to do, but that's fine. We'll find another way. Which we did with the flight we did. But next time, I'd spend a little more time, and I'd actually go through those steps so that I can rent a plane and kind of check out some stuff on my own and go see it from a different angle, right? So, yeah,
neat
great place, cool spot to be.
and fun beers.
Fun beers. Takes a while to get there, but you know those new planes, they're not so bad. So.
So actually, well, our last question before we close this episode off. What did you fly down on? You were on a 787 Dreamliner?
We were on a 787 Dreamliner from Vancouver to Brisbane.
Nice.
And then we were on a 737 MAX 8 on the way from Calgary to Vancouver.
Well, that's boring because
Boring. That plane was in the news for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, for all the wrong reasons. But the Dream.
But it's fixed now. It's
Yeah,
fixed.
it's fixed now.
But the Dreamliner is
the
coolest one.
Dreamliner is the coolest.
So that one was really cool, and reasonably comfortable. I'm a tall guy too, but the best part was on the flight back there was nobody in the middle seat,
Ooh,
No, nice.
stretch.
and then nobody on the middle seat from Vancouver to Calgary.
Sweet.
And the funny part about it was I was seated beside the same person twice.
You basically got off the plane and
So
got back on
like
the plane.
like Jonathan and I had booked the aisles, like both aisle seats, and so this other person had the window. And apparently she had booked her flight like the day before. Because I sat down, I was like, what are the odds that there's nobody in the middle seat? She said, well, I booked my flight yesterday and there was nobody there. I was like,
Pretty
all
good.
right, pretty good. And then turned out she was going to Calgary too in the same seat. I was like, oh, hello again. She was like, well, we get lucky again. I was like, I hope so. Because sure enough, nobody in the middle seat. Great. Said six words to this woman and then didn't have to deal with her at all.
Nice. Hello again, friend, and done.
And
Awesome.
so that's the Australia catch up from the beer side anyway.
So beers in Australia are lower alcohol, more like for day drinking, for like multiple drinkings, for drinking for a long time, to hydrate.
In the liquor store, and again at the breweries and the bars and stuff like that, they have
the breweries
the full
are-
spread and the
but the
higher
breweries
alcohol stuff.
are
So those beers
similar.
are made,
Yeah.
but I feel like we just don't have a prevalence of that low alcohol beer in Canada at all. Might be right for a small upstart brewery to just step in and create a market.
Maybe.
Yeah, it seems we either have 8-9% imperial stuff or like
Five.
no alcohol.
Or
or
no.
or the
Yeah,
5.
so we have 0, 5, 9,
There's-
12.
yeah, there isn't really a lot of stuff in the like 2 to 4 range.
Well, that's the thing. If you can make a beer economical at, again, between 3 and 4%, and you actually priced it accordingly, then it's like, hey, like you're paying less for this beer, but you're like, so it's a cheap beer, but you're not getting as much alcohol. Would that actually work in this market?
Yeah, but they don't price it that much cheaper. Like it's cheaper, but it's not that much. It's not cheaper relative to the cost of production. Because your grain bill is so much less
Yeah.
to produce that 3% beer.
So yeah, maybe that's where the young upstart comes in. Who knows? But if someone had an idea and they wanted to tell us about their idea for the beer, Robert, how would they do so?
You can go to our website, solutionsbrewing.com. There's a contact us page there. Feel free to send us a message through that. Or if you like, you can send us an email, which coincidentally, that's what the contact us page does, which is noproblems@solutionsbrewing.com. And of course, we're always available on Instagram and Facebook at Solutions Brewing Co.
Yeah. Well, now that you're back, you have to start brewing some beers, Brendan.
Yep. Now that I'm back and our brew kettle is fixed.
And our brew kettle
And
is
the brew
fixed.
kettle's fixed,
We're up and operational again. So, yeah, we're working on that 0%. Actually, quick sidebar: the place that we were supposed to do in November, that little tasting in Cochrane, I re-signed us up. They said in April or something like that they're going to have the next show. It's like,
I think
okay.
I saw that. Yeah, good.
Specifically, they said, "Are you bringing any non-alcoholic beers?"
For in April, so we should try and figure out.
And that's what I basically said. It's like, hey, we're experimenting right now, and we hope to have something for ready for show in a couple months. So,
well, we should try a few brews then.
yeah,
Even something low, even if it doesn't end up as no alcohol, something low.
Yeah, something low would be nice. Or if we can figure out a pasteurization or something like that, then we can be a little more comfortable with the zero alcohol. But
yeah.
anyway, if anybody has any ideas about that, please refer to the last 30 seconds of this podcast.
Yeah, how do you pasteurize on a low scale? Let us know.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
We'll talk to you next time.